dee 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 dee, and that is the middle eight for you. So we've already played an intro, we've played some verses, all the full structure's all written out for you so you can see exactly where all these bits fit in. And now we're going to play the middle eight, which is the dee 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 bits, and that goes like this. Back into another verse. So that's reasonably simple. So the chords we're going to be using on this are F, E minor, D, and D, and G, with a little run up. So I've sort of exaggerated this a bit. So when you see him play it live, he tends to keep the same, so there's the same rhythm going like that, which you can do, which is not a problem. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, doing a gentle up-down strumming. What I've chosen to do, and it seems more apparent on the single if you ever really listen to it, is starting just doing downstrokes to start off with. So we're starting on playing, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like that. So that's what I'm going to teach you to do, but if you want to, you could still keep that other same pattern. So I'm starting with downstrokes and then just gradually building up towards the end of the middle eight. So we're starting off by going like that. So we're saying 3rd fret of the A, open D, 2nd fret of D, and 3rd fret of D. So basically we're on that C chord and we're going to go onto the F chord. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to go down to E minor for another 2 sets of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then back to the F again for another set of 2 3s. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what we have so far is, and again. Can't get this right today. It's supposed to be E minor, that, not C. And again. F. So we've got to start from the F. Down to the E minor. F again. Then we're going to do the same again, but on the D. And I'm starting to strum now. Still keeping in my head 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But I'm doing more fervent up and downers. So what I have so far is, we're going to go to a G chord, and all I'm going to play is the first G chord like that normally, and then there's a little run up. So from the D to the G it goes like this. And then back into the verse again. So what we're doing here, playing the full G chord. So, but what I'm trying to get to do is, so we've got the D, I'm trying to hit the D open note to start off with, because that's part of the melody line. It goes, oh God, open, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret. So it's, I'm playing it with the chords. Like that. So we're hitting the D first, and then the full G chord. So it's literally like da 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 da. Then we're going to hit, I'm going to take my finger off of the A string and put that on the 2nd fret of the D. So we have, but only strumming D, G, B and E string. So the full one on the start, full G to start off with. Then we're going to just hit the 2nd fret of the D there. So that's when we're just going to restrict the chord to the D, G, B and E strings. Like that. So you have this melody line. Then back into the C, into it's either a solo, a harp solo or a verse, one or the other, but they're all exactly the same, which I'll explain in a minute. So let's just do that whole bit one more time then. then back into the verse, I think. Check the structure. Okay, so there is your middle 8. Okay, as well as the middle 8, there is also a harp solo, a mouth organ solo, and that is exactly the same as the verses. So you don't need to do anything new there at all. Again, it's all tabbed out for you in the structure. So there's 2 more little bits to learn. There's a tiny bit of guitar that changes just slightly after the harp solo, and there's a little outro to show you. So let's plough forward and do those last 2 little bits.